Recording. Perfect. All right. We are live. We are recording. All of the buttons are clicked. All of the steps. Okay. Hey, everyone. Guess what? It's Monday again, right? My favorite time. Welcome to Insights with Alicia. It's Monday at 7 here in Phoenix. I know it's a different time for some of you that join with me here because daylight savings has happened. So wherever you are, thank you so much for joining in. And every week we gather to learn and connect. And I often say things and people want to know more about it. So that's why we do this. They love the insight from the scientific psychic, right? Me, my left brain empath. And there are so many things that I've experienced in my life that have transformed. And I love sharing these insights to help everyone, not just my clients. We get together, we talk about relationships, behavior, life skills that will literally change your life, and tools and ideas to support all of the changes we want to make. And let's not forget about the animals. We talk about them too. We talked about them last week. So I'm Alicia Sweezer, owner of Who Knew Healing. For those of you who don't know me, I am an intuitive life coach, animal consultant and communicator, psychic medium, intuitive mentor, and I absolutely love being able to help people and animals. For those of you listening as a podcast on Spotify, Apple, or any other platforms, welcome. And if you'd like the video version, please visit my YouTube channel under Alicia Sweezer, or even better, join us live on Monday nights. I would love to have you. And for those of you who are watching on Facebook, if you'd like to comment, please join us by the Zoom link because I'm not able to see the Facebook comments right now. Thanks for joining in. Hopefully you got something to drink. I have my water. It's super dry here in Phoenix, so hopefully my voice sounds all right. It's a little hoarse because it's just one of those things. All right, recording, just making sure all the buttons. Feel like I'm missing a button tonight. But Lisa did fix it, so my glasses don't glare. All right, what are we going to talk about tonight? What are we going to talk about? It's good stuff, I promise you. We're going to talk about resistance and defensiveness. This has popped up in my world within the last week, and I sat down and this is what came out when I thought, what are we going to talk about at the next Insights with Alicia? So resistance and defensiveness. To know the difference between these two can make many changes for us because we judge ourselves for resistance and we often judge other people for defensiveness. What? I know. At least that's how I've seen it or how it's popped up in my world. So there's going to be a lot of questions to ask yourself tonight. These questions are good for any situation. You can just change out the word resistance or defensiveness and use them in anything that's popping up for you. Don't worry about writing them all down. The recording will be on YouTube tonight and loaded onto the podcast platforms. So you can listen at your own pace in the future if you really want to have all these questions, because there's going to be a lot of steps. We're going to go through, what each of those looks like. We're going to talk about how to shift each one of those. And there's some pieces in there. And like I said, the questions can be used for anything. And for those of you who like to read, this will also be this week's written blog. So you'll have access to that when it publishes on Wednesday. So in many, many ways, you can have access to this information. Man, it's dry here in Phoenix. Okay, so what is resistance? In my opinion, resistance is when we are pushing against something. It's an inward to outward energy and action. And resistance has many gifts for us in it. I know that makes you want to roll your eyes. When resistance is showing up, it also brings with us the door to our healing and breakthrough, right? That is just an amazing thing. And who doesn't want to have the doors when we're working on stuff like this? Who doesn't want to have the answers? And many times when we are in resistance, it is because we are sensing a change that is coming for us, or is already staring us in the face. Could just be me that it waits that long. I don't know. And the old version of us is holding on with everything it has. It really digs in its heels. And then as humans, we pile on the judgments and the shoulds and the supposed tos. Are we cute? So let me know if any of you guys can relate to this. I should be doing something. What's wrong with me that I just can't get motivated? Why can't I just do what I know I'm supposed to be doing? Why am I procrastinating? Why can't I be like so-and-so? What is wrong with me? So if you've ever had any of those thoughts pop in, might be there's some resistance going on. And like I said, resistance is it's uncomfortable, but it's good. It's good. It's good. I promise. So resistance is showing us our fear of change, our fear of growth, our fear of being uncomfortable, our fear of trusting ourselves and the next step in our lives. And I totally get it. Change is not always comfortable and smooth. And newsflash, sometimes it is. Problem is, our human side likes to only remember the rough transitions. And then we project that into the future onto every transition to come. It's a protection behavior that we do. We believe we are preparing ourselves, but really we are staying in a fear vibration that can sometimes create a self-fulfilling prophecy. Meaning we believe the transition will be rough, painful, horrible. So it is. And there are times when we have been blindsided, right? No, never, ever, ever feels good. And we try to prepare for that. So we keep this preparation, this vigilance going because we're afraid of the change. Now, here's the thing. This is where that hidden drama can creep in. So we really want to pay attention. So if you haven't listened or read or watched the hidden drama podcast, blog, video, I recommend doing so. It's from, I think 2 weeks ago, we did hidden drama. And so if you catch yourself having those conversations in your head or cycling, right, being in the loop, this is where it can really kick in. So now, what is defensiveness? My opinion, defensiveness has a victim energy to it. And there's absolutely no judgment in that. It's just how it's created. And it has a complete protection. It's the walls that completely surround you. And it doesn't come with the door because we don't allow it. When we are defensive, we are in a place of victimhood because we believe someone is doing something to us. So defensiveness can be created from insecurity, the need to be right, our ego, past trauma, victimhood, like I said, being irresponsible with our life choices, arrogance, and a few other things. So the interesting thing about defensiveness is that underneath it, there is a massive fear of being vulnerable and avoiding responsibility to take care of our lives. So I'm going to break down those two parts of defensiveness because they each come with a different sort of shift. And because I see them as two pieces, right? So the healing looks different in those. So I'm going to break those down for us. So we've got resistance on its own, right? Comes with its door, lets us know there's some change coming, that sort of thing. And then we've got defensiveness that has two pieces underneath it. So for fear of being vulnerable and defensive behavior, that looks like when we've been vulnerable in the past and we were attacked, that created a defensive behavior. And now that's the default filter with how we see the entire world. Now we feel that whenever someone says something to us, we hear we're doing it wrong and something is wrong with us. Whatever our insecurities are, get magnified in this behavior. And here's the thing. These insecure thoughts are our own, but we believe it's what others think of us. So we project them out, but then they hit our own walls and our own trauma of defensiveness, right? And they're bounced back to us. The trick is that we then believe we have real, quote unquote, evidence that this is what someone is saying or thinking about this. So I know that's a lot. So what it does is these thoughts are our own. So if we're thinking, oh, I'm so horrible at this or whatever, but we believe it's what everyone else thinks about us. So we project that out into the world. Every person we meet, that thought is running back there. And then it bounces back to us from our own trauma. So our brain, our ego believes it's now real evidence that that's what that person thinks. And this can really confuse us and keep us from creating the life that we want. It's one of those behaviors that just happens under the surface, it's deep down in there. And once we start to one, right, recognize it, and then two, we can start to shift it. So for example, with this one, when we've created something and we ask for another person's opinion, it's possible to get defensive, right? Now, we have to remember that we asked for this information. Sometimes that gets us. And the truth is that it isn't personal. It's personal for us because we're the ones that created it, right? Our emotions, our energy, our time, our mental capacity, our life force went into making this. And, oh, my notes popped off. And the information the person is providing about that isn't personal, meaning it isn't an attack on us as a person. It is whatever the thoughts are that we think we are hearing. Remember, I talked about the projecting and the filters. So they're sharing their experience of whatever it was that was created. We then get to decide what we're going to do with that information. We don't have to take it into our body and make it mean something about us as a person. It's just simply information. It's data that we're collecting about this thing that we created. Another example is when we're feeling vulnerable and we aren't able to hear what is actually being said to us. I was talking to someone the other day and I was feeling vulnerable about a particular situation, and I asked for her feedback on it. She said what she thought, and I could feel myself wanting to get defensive. I knew she was saying certain things to me, and all I could hear was that I did it wrong and that I should have done it better. Now, here's the thing. I trust this person I was talking to, and I know myself well enough to recognize what was happening. And so I said to her, I know this isn't what you're saying to me, but all I'm hearing is I did it wrong. And she said, no. She was like, she's like, that is not what I said at all. And I said, I know. Can you please say it in a different way so that I can hear it? Because I really value what you're saying, and I know it's important. So she did. She was amazing. She said it in a different way, and I heard her. And then I was able to shift some things, right? I was able to get some awarenesses and shift what was happening. So when we speak to what's happening, it changes everything. It's like, let's just talk about the elephant in the room. Let's say what's happening for us and move through it. Is that always easy to do? Absolutely not. Is it comfortable? Nope. Is it scary? Absolutely can be. And imagine what would have happened if I wouldn't have spoke up, right? I was already feeling vulnerable about a situation. I was already beside myself. Like, I don't see what happened. I was asking my questions to the universe, right? I was using all of my tools, and I was talking to someone for some support. Now, if I would have just kept believing the lies that I was hearing of, I did it wrong. One, I would have missed connection with this person. Two, I wouldn't have gotten the awareness. I wouldn't have been able to hear the wisdom that she was imparting. And that may mean that I wouldn't have been able to shift things. So then I would have continued to be upset, vulnerable, doubting, all those things that come in with all of the thoughts that don't serve us when we're on the emotional roller coaster, right? So just speak up. And if you catch yourself being, starting to feel defensive, check in. Because like I said, there's two pieces of how I see defensiveness: vulnerability. And we're going to talk about the next piece here of when we're making some choices, and recognize what's happening for you. Because the truth is, if it's a vulnerability thing, speak into that. And hopefully you're in a conversation with someone that can see and hear you, right? You've picked an emotionally safe person, and they can help you shift that. Because they can be like, no, that's literally not what I even said. Those are not the words that I even came close to using. And they weren't. Like I said, she was using all kinds of other words. And I was like, I'm not hearing anything except I screwed up. So I would have missed out on a really amazing opportunity for myself and an amazing connection with another person had I not said just what was simply true, right? Authenticity. I'm hearing other things. So the other part of defensive behavior is the victimhood, right? So we're going to talk about victimhood and defensive behavior. The victimhood part of defensiveness is when we're playing the victim and not taking care of our lives. We are not being responsible for our happiness. We are running from things. We are playing the ostrich with our head in the sand. Anyone ever do that? No? Okay. I wrote this for no one then. I'm just kidding. I've done it once in a while. I'm usually too neurotic to do this particular behavior to this level that I'm talking about today. Okay. So then this behavior, this is what happens, right? We're making choices that are out of alignment. we're running, doing the ostrich thing, then this behavior starts to affect the other people in our lives. They start to speak up about it because they don't enjoy it. Doesn't feel good to them. And then we get defensive. We act like they're attacking us. We play the victim because inside, right, we know we're not being in alignment with the choices we're making in our lives. And so when other people shine a light on our behavior and our choices, we become accountable. And if we are not in a place where we want to be accountable, it then triggers a whole host of behaviors. We play the victim, we attack back, we argue, we distract, we shut down, we run, and there's all kinds of things that happen there. This can be particularly challenging to work through with someone if they're not open to looking at themselves or the situation. And the truth is that this behavior can cost people relationships, jobs, friendships, all kinds of things, because over time, this energy and behavior can really start to wear on others. And this is where it's easy to start to judge the defensive person. Remember, I talked about in resistance, we usually judge ourselves. And then with defensiveness, we start to judge the other person. Like, why can't they get their act together? Why are they always doing this? They need to be different. They should be doing X, Y, Z. And people don't want to spend time with someone when everything is an argument or where there isn't a mutual connection, because the defensive person is always acting like a victim. And that can be really, really draining. So people will start to move away or completely leave. The unfortunate side to this is that when the defensive person notices this and they start to ask what's happening, the people who are leaving try to explain to the defensive person, but unfortunately, the defensive person can't hear it because they're stuck in victimhood and everything is someone else's fault, right? So then the whole cycle starts again. They attack back, they argue, all those behaviors that I spoke about. And when someone is in this place, there really isn't anything anyone can do until they want to change something for themselves, right? And we know that that is true about absolutely everything, not just this particular behavior. With defensiveness, everything they hear is an attack, and so nothing gets through. Side note here, I am not talking about narcissistic behavior in any of this. We're just talking about people who are not narcissists and their defensiveness, because we know people with narcissistic tendencies, what their defensiveness looks like. That's a whole other category and a whole other topic. So not talking about that tonight. And with this part of the defensiveness, there is a lot of hurt, right? And unless the person's willing to go through and do the healing, it rarely changes. So here's the thing. We've all been in resistance. We've all been defensive. Absolutely no judgment in any of this. My question is, how do we use it to further us down our path to grow and heal, right? Because it's here, it's happening to us. So what do we do with it? Okay, so how can we shift resistance? I know for myself, when I'm in resistance, I get angry, which is always interesting to me because I'm not an angry person. I can get frustrated easily, but not angry. So when I get this cranky mad like that, I know something's happening. Sometimes it takes me a little while to catch on. And then I'm like, oh, I'm a little better now. I also get some particular, like it's almost like my lower back will start to twist in this interesting way. And so I get some physical symptoms as well that are different than my normal back pain. So it's my body always lets me know when something is happening. It's my job to pay attention and ask questions, because this one, sometimes it will, it just gets in there and you're just mad about it. And then you're like, oh, wait, why am I actually mad? So what's the first step? Awareness, right? Awareness is always the first step with everything. So we get to start to ask questions. So here are some questions for this. Remember, I talked about at the beginning that there was going to be a lot of questions in here. And like I said, don't worry about trying to keep up with them. They'll all be loaded to some sort of platform, recording, written, otherwise that you can listen to or watch. So we start to ask questions. Is this resistance? Right? And then you always, so you guys know that follow me, you check the energy, right? You ask a question, check light or heavy. Light means yes, match, it's true. Heavy means false, it's a lie, it's not a match. So we go, is this resistance? And you get a light or heavy or a yes or a no. And then more questions, right? So is this resistance? Am I in resistance? For us empaths out there, is this my resistance? What am I resisting? What change am I resisting or in fear of? Where am I believing old thoughts, programming, or beliefs? Where am I believing resistance will keep me safe? Ooh, right, that one. It's all it comes down to the safety. Where am I not willing to move to the next step of my life? What am I believing this resistance means? Where is my door to the resistance, right? I talked about resistance comes with the door for our healing and change. Am I willing to walk through this door? Particularly with that one, I want to speak to just for a second, like you may get a yes, you may get a no, you may get a maybe. And all of them are valid answers, right? It just lets us know where we are in the process. So we don't want to judge anything that comes up. So if you go, am I willing to walk through this door, and you get a no, it's real easy to be like, oh, right, what's wrong with you? Why don't you want to walk through the door? Suck it up, walk through, push through the door, blah, 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 all those things. But if we're able to just have that space of like, all right, in this 10 seconds, this is where I am. All right. Love ourselves in that moment, because it will shift. And right, every time we judge something, it locks it in place. That's the kicker about judgments. We can't see past it, holds it in place. And so if we're able to ask these questions in an open space, less judgment, it'd be great. Last one I have is, what is keeping me from walking through this door to shift the resistance? And I'm sure you guys can come up with some questions. Also, this was just a few that popped in as I was writing this. And they're all great questions to ask that can bring us the awareness of what we're resisting. Then, right, part 2, I guess, is we get to start to ask questions like this. What inspired actions, not doing and not busyness, like, right, what inspired actions can I do to shift this resistance? Future me, what did you choose here that shifted this resistance? What choice can I make that will create greater? What can I release or heal that will shift this resistance? How can I shift this resistance with ease and grace? It's always one for me. I do my very best to always add on ease and grace to any question I'm asking to the universe of where I'm like wanting some information, I'll be like, I always say, bring me the message loud and clear with ease and grace, because I don't like getting beat up anymore. So I'm always like, bring it really, really clear so I can hear it, but with a softer touch. So also, how can this resistance be fun? How can I shift my perspective in this situation? So you get the idea of what this starts to look like. We got part 1 of, we start to ask the questions that brings us the awareness of what the resistance is. And then part 2 is asking the questions that are going to allow us the information to start to shift it. Okay. So now, how can we shift defensiveness? So remember, I broke defensiveness down into the 2 parts, the vulnerability foundation, and then the sort of victimhood foundation. So we're going to speak to the vulnerability part as well. So when our defensiveness is coming from a fear of vulnerability, we can ask questions like this. What judgments or beliefs do I have around me being vulnerable? Ooh, wow, that was interesting. You feel all that came up? It's so interesting. When I write it, it brings up some, but now that I'm connected to you all, like you just feel the energy of everything that brings up. Because we all judge ourselves for being vulnerable. We've all done it. Wow, that brings, let's just let that all come up and release. That's good stuff. Okay, what in this situation has, wow, that one is still running. Can you guys feel that? Wow, there's a lot of energy to that one. It's so fantastic. Okay, focus. What in this situation has me believing I am not safe? What in this situation has me believing I am vulnerable? Where am I linking what is happening right now with something that happened in the past? Wow, that one, like I almost just burst into tears. That one brought up a lot also. Could be that other one is still running, but these 2, wow, See, this is what's so cool about when we get to connect, right? Like we ask these questions on our own, and it's great because we have these tools and we'll get our awareness. But look at what's happening right now with all of us connected. Even if you're not here with me live, when you listen or watch, you're going to feel what's happening here. Oh my goodness. Yeah, it's a lot. There's some messages in the chat box here that says, this is so good, right? This is good stuff. It's not always comfortable or easy, but it's good stuff. Okay, so I'm going to repeat that one again. Where am I linking what is happening right now with something that has happened in the past? And that is something that we do. There's actually a clearing that I run when I notice I'm doing that. And it just comes from protection, right? Like this has happened before. We think we don't want to happen again. So we drag the baggage from that last experience in so that we believe we're prepared. What is the clearing? I think it's everywhere that I have misidentified, misaligned, and misapplied. And then you fill in X and Y. So like the past experience with today. So it could look like everywhere that I've misidentified, misapplied, and misaligned, being vulnerable with a friend, with what is happening with this other friend right now. And that will, and then you say, I destroy and uncreate it all, right? So we cancel, clear, whatever your language is in that for your clearing, but it brings up all that energy and it breaks the links because those links don't actually serve us. Our ego, our brain is like, no, we want the links because we want to be prepared for whatever will pop up. But the truth is that it's dragging all those things and then we're projecting. So we're not actually seeing the current situation in front of us for what it truly is. We got all those filters and perspectives. And so we just clear that out. So next question is, where am I projecting my insecurities, thoughts, and emotions, right? Oof. What filters are impacting what I am seeing and hearing in this moment? Kind of what I just spoke about a minute ago. Where can I be open to seeing this differently and growing from it? What opportunity, where is the opportunity for healing here? Right? Really, really good stuff. Because that vulnerability part, we've all been vulnerable. That's going to happen. And these questions can help us, one, get to know ourselves better. Also see what's happening at that moment, see where our healing still is, see where maybe some traumas are, and start to shift those. So now we're going to talk about the other one, the other piece of defensiveness. So when our defensiveness is coming from a place of not being responsible for our choices and not being responsible for the life we're creating, we can ask questions like this. Am I open to looking at my defensiveness? Remember, no judgment, no matter what answer you get. Am I willing to look at myself and the choices that I've made? Where am I not being responsible for my choices, my life, or my happiness? Where am I running? Where am I stuck in victimhood? Where is my ego wreaking havoc on my life? Where am I distracting myself from my life? Where am I blaming other people for my choices? Am I willing to be responsible for myself, my choices, and my life? So that gives you an idea of kind of where to start asking those kind of questions. And all these questions, whether it's for resistance or defensiveness, brings up so many wonderful things for us to look at, heal, move through. It's good stuff. Like I said, I know it doesn't feel good sometimes. When it comes to my clients having resistance, I love being able to help them move through it because I can see what's on the other side for them. I know what they're working toward. When they're moved through the resistance, they are freer. They're more open to create what they want next. It can be really fun. Now, mind you, not saying easy or comfortable. I am saying fun in a way that is generative and creating more. And sometimes it's not like one of these things where it's like a one and done. I have some clients where I had one client, we had two pretty big things that we worked through, and they took quite a bit of time. And we did a lot of back and forth on, I would teach and I would show their behavior and they would be like, but I still really want to. And I'm like, I know. And so we just chip away at it sometimes. And there was times where I'm like, you know what? This might be one that, at least right now, they're not willing to shift. You know what I mean? It's not in this place of they're doing absolutely anything wrong, or I'm not saying the right thing or any of this. It's just, particularly with this one client, they were two really big things. And, but it was awesome because eventually they did. And they were like, oh my gosh, this is what you've been talking about. I'm like, yeah, like it's so different. Um, and that, like I said, for me, that is one of the pieces. I mean, there's so many pieces to what I do like this for a living and how I get to help people and why I love it so much. And it's those moments where they have those breakthroughs, whether they're big or little, right? We always judge all that. There's no big or little. And they just see with these, when it's those particular big pieces that we're resisting, when it finally clicks for them, it's a domino effect, and they start to see where that has been happening in every part of their life. Because, right, it all comes back to us. It all comes back to the choices. It's like the people may change that this behavior shows up with, but it all still comes back to us because it's our behavior. And so when it clicks, it just starts to unravel everywhere. And it's so much fun to be able to see that and how it changes their life forever from that point forward. Because like you guys hear me talk about, you don't go back, right? You can't unsee it. This is what it always is. So, so these are the two pieces, right? The resistance. And then, like I said, for me, at least how I see it, there's two pieces to the defensiveness. And I'm losing my voice again. I tell you. It was so interesting when I sat down to write this, because one, it was created, the situation came up last week, and then I had my own part to it. And then the people I was talking to, like to help me through it, they had some insights. And so, and I even said to one of them, I was like, this feels like this could be, like a Monday night insights thing. And she was like, yeah, I think so. But I didn't have the sense of yet. And probably because I was still working through some things. But then I sat down and it just flowed out. And I was like, okay, guess this is what we're going to talk about this week. And like these questions just kept coming. And this one took me a couple days, because usually when I do this, I write it, then you've got to go back and look at it. And then I want to add more. And then all this kind of stuff, particularly when it's subjects like this, and I've got questions, and it's like, right, these step-by-step processes that we go through. I always want to make sure that it's really, really clear for people that are hearing it, right? It may be clear when I'm reading it and in my own head because I'm talking to myself, but I really want to make sure that it's clear for the people that are hearing it. And it looks like it is from the comments in the chat here. It's just great content, bombshell episode. They love the questions. I hope everyone else who's listening does as well. Yes, they do hit close to home, bringing up a lot of intense feelings, which they did for me as I was writing it. And like I said, I'm always, I don't know why, surprised, because I'm so focused when I'm doing this with you guys on Monday nights of when the emotions start to roll through. But yes, it's amazing what these questions brought up for us tonight. So I want to thank everyone who contributed to that, whether you're here live or listening or watching at a different time. You guys are still part of this. So thank you so much for being willing to be open to what we were talking about tonight, because you guys created with me also. So that's the two things, the resistance and the defensiveness. And like I said, those questions, even though this is the subjects we're talking about tonight, they can be changed out for anything that's coming up in your life. They're just really, really good questions. I'll probably print them out for myself and stick them on the wall, because sometimes, I'm pretty good at remembering for myself, but when you're in it, it's helpful to have that list. Like, that's why we have the happiness list, right? The happiness list of 40 things. When you're in something, these are the things that you go do to get yourself filled back up, get yourself happy, so that you don't stay in the rabbit hole. And thank you so much, everyone, for the super amazing, kind comments you guys are putting in the chat here. That it's just, next level content. And so I'm so happy that this is really making sense to you guys and having a benefit for you, and is helpful. So, and we are at time. Oh my gosh. Sometimes I think I'm going to run short, and then sometimes I run over. But you know what? It's my event, so I get to go as long as I want. Haha. So I'm just kidding. Okay. I'm going to stop talking now, even though I so enjoy connecting with you all on Monday nights. That is all for tonight. Hope you've enjoyed yourself. I had a great time. Always my favorite thing to see you all. So join me again next Monday, right? Who knows what we'll talk about? I don't even know yet. And if there are people you want to share this with, like I said, the video will be on the YouTube channel under Alicia Sweezer. Subscribe, share it, like it, all the things that get it out to more people. And sign up for my blog if you like things like this, whoknewhealing.com, right? New with a K, so whoknewhealing.com. And all of these links that I'm talking about, they're in the event listing, whether it's Facebook or Meetup or wherever you are. Thank you to everyone, as always, who donates to my Cosmic Tip Jar, allows me to create more things like this that I can give to people. Anyone feels led to do so, there's multiple options. All the links are in the info. And as always, if anything I talked about makes you want to learn more, reach out, book a session, book a discovery call. Let's see what we can create and change together in your life, because this is what it looks like. This is what we do. We break these pieces down. People often ask why I'm different. And this is one of the pieces, separate from, the intuitive part, which was funny. I had a client a couple of weeks ago, and we were, he had come with this list of the things he wanted to talk about. And then we finished, and I said, look, we need to talk about work. I said, we need to talk about your job. Cause I knew it popped in like all week long. Like and I didn't even know if this client, he reaches out when he needs me. It's not like a regular kind of thing at this point. And so we talk about work, and all of this stuff comes up, right? And with his coworkers and all this, and there's all these situations. So we process it all. I give him language. I give him tools of how to handle the situations. And then crazy enough, he calls me the next day and he's like, listen, my mind was blown today. He goes, how did you know? Because everything that I talked about for his work stuff happened the next day. The conversations that he was going to schedule to have just happened organically the next day. He had the language to use in these situations. He had processed all of his part of it, right? So none of that was being projected and none of that was coming out, and he wasn't attacking. He had connection with his coworkers, really good steps moving forward. And he was like, and I told you, I was like, this is the difference between a traditional life coach and an intuitive life coach. I was gifted with the information of we need to talk about work. And it all just unfolded magically the next day. It was just cracked me up. He was like, you, and I'm like, I know. So, that is one of the things that makes me different, as well as being able to pull apart behaviors like this, like seeing the defensiveness, that there's a couple of different things in there that it gets created by, right? A lot of times it's just this category of oh, it's just defensive behavior. Oh, they're just acting defensive. But when we pull it apart, it's there's a couple of things in there, right, that create that behavior, and they're healed differently. It's a different set of questions. It's a different process if you're trying to shift defensiveness from vulnerability, or defensiveness from, maybe being out of alignment and not choosing for your happiness and running and ostrich behavior and all that kind of stuff. So yes, this is what we talk about. This is what we do on Monday nights. And this is what I do with my clients. I absolutely love it. So you guys have a great week. It was so amazing to connect with you, as always. I can't wait to see you next Monday. And wherever you are, I hope you stay warm or you stay cool, whatever the temperature is. I'm going to try and stay warm here in Phoenix because it's going to get cold again. All right, everyone, have a good night. I'll see you next week. Thanks so much. Bye.